Imagine that there are two farmers. One of them is a poultry farmer and the other one is a pork producer. These two farmers need to buy some corn in order to feed their livestock. And let's say, for the sake of argument, that the poultry farmer is doing the math and has figured out that they can afford to pay as much as $3.75 a bushel for the corn and still make a profit. Whereas the pork producer can pay $3.25 per bushel for the corn and still make a profit. These two farmers are going to pick up the phone and they're going to call their local grain elevator, or they might just jump on the internet and go look up prices. And they're going to find out that the local grain elevator can sell them corn for $3 a bushel. This means that every time the poultry farmer buys a bushel of corn, feeds that corn to his chickens, and then turns around and sells those chickens, that he's going to be making 75 cents per bushel. And that's going to make our poultry farmer happy. Now, the pork farmer, on the other hand, every time he buys a bushel of corn and feeds that bushel of corn to his pigs, he's going to make 25 cents off every bushel of corn that he runs through his operation. It's not as much money per bushel as the poultry farmer, but it is going to make the pork producer very much happy as well. Our poultry farmer is very, very excited about all this, so he's going to order 3,000 bushels of corn. As you can imagine, the pork producer is still very happy, but a little less excited, so he's only going to order 1,500 bushels of corn. $2,250 worth of profit. While the pork producer picks up $375 worth of profit. While it is obvious that the chicken producer is very, very happy, it's important to also notice that the pork producer is also happy because the pork producer also made a profit. This is an example of a concept from economics called consumer surplus. Now, if you're paying close attention, you're going to say, wait a second, these are farmers. Farmers are producers. You even called them producers in the description. The thing to remember, though, is that these two farmers both bought corn, meaning that they were consumers in the corn market. And we represent consumers in a market with this thing right here, a demand curve. In this example, when the price of corn is $3, the amount of corn that these two consumers choose to purchase, the amount that they consume, is 4,500 bushels. When the consumer is a business, the consumer surplus represents the profit that the business earned from participating in the market. Now, we can find the consumer surplus on this graph. It's everything above the market price of $3 and below the demand curve. Let me shade that in for you. The consumer surplus is nothing more than the difference between the amount actually spent and the amount the consumer is willing to spend. We call that the willingness to pay. So if we just take the willingness to pay and then subtract the actual expenditures, we will get the consumer surplus. Typically, when we talk about consumer surplus in an economics class, we actually mean the end user consumer of the product. But it doesn't have to be that way, and it's very important that we remember that if the consumer is a business, then the consumer surplus is equal to the profit that that business earned from participating in that market, from buying that product and turning it over for a profit. We're going to abbreviate consumer surplus with a C and an S, so CS is consumer surplus, and the abbreviation that we use for profit is the Greek letter pi. Thank you for watching. If you want to learn more about consumer and producer surplus, click on this playlist right here. Otherwise, feel free to hit the subscribe button.